I attended the committee meeting when the bill was passed out of committee and heard the chairman explain in great detail how elimination of the income tax would be very attractive to businesses around the country, particularly the CEOs who are looking for places to locate, and they would find Mississippi much more attractive if we didn't have an income tax. And I heard the lady from Madison explain about a book she had read, I think it was called Money Walks, which supported what the chairman said. And I think the whole gist of that was that money will walk somewhere else if we don't have, if we don't eliminate our income tax here in Mississippi. At least that's what I understood. So what this amendment does is it says we can't wait 15 years to eliminate the income tax. What my amendment does is eliminates it next year, July 1st, 2016. No more personal income tax. And that's all it does.
Any questions? Gentleman from Rankin, Mr. Baker, for a question.
Hey, will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I'm going to assume, because you're up there and you're offering it, that this is a serious amendment. So
Absolutely.
I just want to ask you a serious question.
Sure.
If you phase it out next year, how much is it going to be? How much is it? 1.5 billion?
I think it's what the chairman said. I don't doubt the chairman's numbers. He hadn't talked to anybody, but I trust what he said about it.
So, gentlemen, with your serious amendment that we're going to phase out the income tax in 1 year and take a hit to the budget of $1.5 billion.
Yes, sir.
With no trigger, is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So what you're proposing is the Kansas plan, right?
No, because Kansas plan, as the chairman corrected.
Maintain order, please.
As the chairman correctly pointed out, this is very different than the Kansas plan.
Well, it was. Hang on a second.
Hang on. Let me answer your
question. It'll be the Kansas plan.
Let me answer your question, sir. The Kansas plan eliminated various other taxes. All my amendment does is eliminate the personal income tax, not corporate business, personal income tax.
Okay.
So it's
the Kansas plan without a couple of things.
Without several things.
So we wake up day one in that fiscal year with $1.5 billion gone out of the Treasury.
That's right. And what you got is a year to a year and a half to let everybody in the country and the world know Mississippi will no longer have a personal income tax. And as they said in the committee, that that loss will be offset by the increase in business. Gentlemen, we're going to have businesses coming in here that are going to offset that loss. And to the extent they don't, gentlemen, then we need to tighten our belt and we need to learn to live within our means.
So, gentlemen, I was trying to remember some of these other amendments that came up, and one of them was on the MEP that you voted for that amendment, right?
Yes, sir.
And the other one was on the PERS that you voted for that amendment.
That's right.
And so you're going to turn around and come up and offer this amendment?
That's right.
And we're still supposed to consider that this amendment is a serious amendment.
As I said before.
Okay.
And I would suggest that everybody else consider it serious as well.
Okay, further questions? Gentleman from Smith, Mr. Eaton.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it 3%? Is the trigger mechanism in this?
No.
No trigger mechanism?
None.
Okay. What about? I mean, gentlemen, I hate to take you on this because you're
going to do it anyway.
But, gentlemen, I mean, we got a budget here signed by these LBO members. We're operating off of it. I mean, I don't understand your logic. And I mean, how could you do what you want to do?
Because the loss will be offset by the increase in business, as explained very ably by the chairman. And to the extent it isn't, then we'll have to tighten our belt. And we have over a year to get ready for it, gentlemen.
Gentleman, Pearl River, Mr. Formby, for a question.
I'm just kind of standing here in shock myself and trying to figure out what this does. Is it takes the 15-year plan that is on the table now and it condenses it to 1 year.
That's correct.
So we take 25% of our budget in 1 year and we dump it back into the.
That's correct. But we got 14 to 16 months to work on it.
Yeah, we've got I hate to call names, but I think I just read where Nancy Loom is saying that our 15 to 30-year plan, depending on how long it would be, would cut.
Excuse me. Gentleman's time has expired on his amendment. He will be allowed to close. He'll have 5 more minutes. Recognize the chairman to respond.
Ladies and gentlemen, in America are great. I mean, you know, I had a father that taught me a lot, and he taught me, he said that some people are trying to make chicken salad out of chicken something else. And this is not chicken something else, but it's some sort of chicken. And I'm going to suggest to you, you can see why he was president of the trial lawyers. He made good sense, didn't he? And that's dangerous. You know, us lawyers sometimes say things that I won't call it a sophistry because that didn't even quite cover it. I applaud the gentleman for his statesmanship, but I'm going to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to use your brain. We can't do this in 15 years. I see the gentleman from Pearl River, my classmate, standing up. I'm surprised his blood pressure hadn't popped out of his head, but I'm going to ask you to vote no, but I'd answer any questions for my 5 minutes, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Pearl River, Mr. Formby, for a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, this is boggling the mind. Right now, we've got some people who are against tax cuts, all tax cuts. They're for every tax increase every time against any tax cut and for every tax increase. Right now, they're online, and they're saying that if our 15 to 30-year plan, because this got with the triggers, it could last a long time, would have us laying off teachers. I don't think that's true. But just in the chairman's opinion, if we took $1.5 billion out of the budget next time, what effect would that have on teachers and teachers' salaries and education?
Well, we could eliminate all of the IHL and all of Medicaid budget, and that would just about cover it.
What would it do to the MAEP program as far as fully funding or half funding or not funding?
Let's see, the MAEP is 2.3 the way we have funded it, so we'd take all of it except for $800,000.
What would it do to every state agency in the state?
Probably wouldn't have to cut their budgets, probably about 46%.
What would it do to our road and bridge programs?
We'd proceed at our own peril across bridges.
Would you think that this is, now the gentleman said 4 times that he's serious. Now, I would think this is kind of satire maybe, and that would be maybe just to make a point. But he has said several times that he is serious. So in the chairman's opinion, in all seriousness here, compare in about 30 words what a $1.5 billion tax cut over 1 year, how does that compare to a potential $1.5 billion over 15 or 20 years? I mean, is there any comparison in that at all?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you. It's ridiculous.
Gentleman from Pearl River, Mr. Frierson.
Yes, sir. This is a $1.8 billion cut. Did I hear that correctly?
Well, I think maybe 1.5.
1.5. Okay, if 54% of your general funds are going to education, that means you're talking about a $900 million immediate cut to education in the state of Mississippi with this amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Or in 17, whenever it goes into effect. So if I vote green for this, I'm voting to cut public education over $900 million.
If you vote green, sir, we're going to have you examined. Okay, any further question? Gentleman from Calhoun, Hines, Mr. Calhoun, you just had an amendment? Okay. Gentleman from Humphreys, Mr. Strawder, you have a question? He passes. Lady from Hines, Ms. Clark, you just had an amendment? Okay.
Well, then I yield my time back.
Okay. Recognize the author to close on his amendment.
May I do?
Oh, okay, there you are. All right. Very briefly from your desk.
I believe this to be a modest proposal. Move final passage.
You don't yield for any further question? Okay. Question occurs on amendment number 6. If you favor that amendment, indicate by saying aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Roll call is demanded. There is sufficient number. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the amendment, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Still got a lot that have not voted. Waiting on you to vote. Okay. I guess everybody who's wanted to vote has voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. A vote of 2 yeas, 94 nays, 13 presents, and 13 absences. The amendment fails.